Hello and welcome to Keiser University Multidisciplinary Center's today's webinar, This Is Us, Building Community Through Morning Meetings, presented by Dr. Manny Rosa, Graduate School of Education, Professor and Advisor. During today's webinar, we will be able to focus on a few areas of learning objectives, and the next outcomes that participants will be able to focus on is to understand the foundations of morning meetings. Also understand the importance of being responsive to students, as well as understanding the foundations of creating a classroom community that promotes social and academic success. We're going to play a video right now.
The assassin is going to start winking at people. And when they wink at someone, that person dies. And the detective's job is to find out who the assassin is before everyone in the room dies.
At every middle school in Louisville, Kentucky, the day begins with a healthy dose of fun. For 20 minutes each morning, students and teachers engage in a series of games and discussions designed to engender empathy and encourage collaboration.
Speak up for your friend and let somebody know.
These morning meetings are a key component of the district's social-emotional learning initiative called Care for Kids, which has been spearheaded by Superintendent Shelley Berman.
There's a pretty complex puzzle that we have to put together to have a successful school. But a foundational element of that puzzle is the culture and climate of that school. And when students feel safe,
hello, sweet girl, you have a good day, okay?
when they feel that that culture and climate supports them, when they feel cared about not only by the adults in the school, but by other students in the school, they can do their best.
Good morning, Keiser. Good morning, Tessa.
We have morning meetings, which are really community-building meetings. Students greet each other, and there's eye contact and handshakes and things.
Buenos dias, amigo.
Buenos dias, amiga.
And then there's sharing about each other's lives.
What'd you do?
I had a football game.
Did y'all win?
No.
These are our PRP.
Try.
My friend's house burnt down this weekend.
Gosh. Were they able to find somewhere to stay after it happened?
They're living in this one hotel, I forgot what it's called.
The Olmsted student body president, who acts as a mentor to this 6th grade class, has seen dramatic changes since the Care for Kids initiative came to his school 2 years ago.
Before Care for Kids, it was mainly a disaster because we had a whole lot of bullying going on around here. Kids getting scared to come to school, people hitting people, more violent stuff. And now that Care for Kids has came along, it had changed the whole atmosphere in the school building.
Yeah, it should look like fair. That means you want everybody to have a fair chance.
It's teaching kids how to care for one another, how to be a bigger person, and how to resolve conflicts. I'm gonna get everybody to move. You ready?
Ready, yeah.
When the cold wind blows, it blows for whoever has on shoes.
Oh!
When you give us activities where we're able to move, get all our noises out before school and stuff, it gets us more hyped about learning.
We have increased our attendance, our pupil attendance, every single pupil month as compared to the previous year. So created an environment, I think, of less problems in the classroom and in the school in terms of behavior, and a sense of students wanting to be at school.
Look at the name on your piece of paper and think of something nice to say about that person.
It isn't touchy-feely stuff.
Good morning, Storm.
Good morning, teacher.
I like your humor.
It's core social skills that gives students the experience and the knowledge and talent to work effectively with others.
Thanks for always being nice.
This is serious work. It's serious work to create a sense of community. And it's serious work on the student's part to be able to manage themselves in a way that is constructive. And that's the most important contribution that they learn.
How did it feel to say something nice about someone else?
It felt good because I actually got to say something positive about somebody.
Okay, we've been discussing bullying all week long. What are some ways that we can stop the bullying?
Teachers who conduct the morning meetings draw on Care for Kids curriculum materials and participate in several training sessions throughout the year.
I think that's what I see you all, if you struggle with anything, is the language, because it is so different than corrective language. It's all the negative, or don't do that, don't do this is what you did wrong. Whereas the language in care and in developmental designs is all about self-regulation, about acknowledging what you've done. It's all in a positive, it's non-confrontational. So is that what you all see as the language is probably the biggest change?
There's also a Care for Kids leadership team in each school, which includes the principal and key staff members who mentor their colleagues.
Maybe they'll become more engaged. As far as the one young man that, we had discussed, and he's sometimes, has an issue. We need to politely ask him to take a break out of the classroom.
Tell Jasmine what you think is special about her.
I like when you share it with me. Thank you, Caroline.
The morning meetings and other elements of Care for Kids have helped promote academic gains and reduce disciplinary problems since it was adopted in 2007.
Jasmine, tell us something that's really special about you.
I like to ride my bike.
The whole morning meeting not only sets a really good tone for the students, but it sets a tone for me.
Thanks for filling my bucket.
How did they fill your bucket today, Jasmine?
Because they was being nice to me.
And what happens when your bucket keeps filling up?
My heart starts dancing.
Because people are saying nice things to her. When I see them first thing in the morning, and the smiles on their faces, they're excited, they want to be here. I'm ready. My bucket is full.
For more information about what works in public education, go to edutopia.org.
Hello, my name is Manny, Rosa, and I want to thank you all for being here today and for watching the quick video on morning meetings. This is a concept that is becoming more prevalent in education. I think most of you will be familiar with it if you taught maybe elementary school, but this is a concept that is expanding to middle school, high schools, and even college classrooms are talking about creating initial impressions and initial kickstarts to a lesson or a plan to set that positive vibe and to create a welcoming environment where students are eager and willing to learn. So we're going to talk about a little bit about the details about morning meetings and set up of morning meetings. The video showed you the ideal situation of the concept of morning meetings. If your entire school was bought into the concept and students were motivated. So depending on your school, this may be something that you are just implementing for your classroom, but hopefully if it's not a mandatory school-wide initiative, you could do it in your classrooms and then hopefully promote it to other teachers as well. So morning meetings are designed to set the tone for respectful learning, establish a climate of trust, motivate students to feel significant, create empathy and encourage collaboration, and support social, emotional, and academic learning. I think you saw that evident from the video. A lot of morning meetings, for those that are new to it, may focus on academics or icebreakers, but it really is a combination of both and making sure we focus on social and emotional concepts and connections and teaching those to the students in our classroom. Some of the benefits of morning meetings produce a calming effect. Students come in, when they walk through the doors, may have a myriad of emotions and anxiety from the night before, and giving them this outlet would hopefully help with classroom management. Facilitate peer-to-peer interaction, which students value more than adults. Students in our classrooms today don't just show up and know how to behave. We have to teach them, and we have to continuously remind them through middle school and through high school. So this helps to be role model and facilitate that peer-to-peer interaction. Help students work through emotions, draws out more reserved students, especially students that are shy or may not be comfortable or may not be verbal. This is a way to get them involved. Develop stronger relationships with students. Increase in student readiness. When you lay out the expectations for the day, the students should be more ready and willing to participate, knowing that they expect, especially for those students that need structure. This is one benefit. Decrease in tardiness, because students are excited to go to the morning meetings. Increase in student attendance and increase in student leadership. After the first 6 weeks of doing morning meetings, you want to maybe assign others to take on a more responsible role, especially in middle school and high school, to come set some of the rules and to create some of the standards and participate and create some of the activities that are going to be conducted through a morning meeting. And all this is to create more responsive classrooms. This is another notion in education where we want classrooms not only to focus on the academic, but also the social emotional connection. So the responsive classroom approach empowers educators to create safe, joyful, and engaging learning communities where all students have a sense of belonging and feel significant. So it's tying in the academics with the social and making sure that everything that happens in the classroom is responded to, whether it's verbal or nonverbal, and that things aren't being ignored. The components of morning meetings, they could be structured depending on the individual needs of your students, but in general, there's a greeting, there's some type of sharing of something that happened in the morning or previously, an activity, and then getting ready for some announcements or objectives or getting students excited for what's about to come for the remainder of the day. We're going to talk about the 4 C's to building trust, because building trust is one of the foundations of morning meetings, and that is communication, cooperation, collaboration, and community. So when you think about communication, think about what are the expectations and processes for your discussion. In middle school and high school, we may think that students are going to walk into the classroom and already know this, but due to many factors, there needs to be reminders. So you want to constantly define what a quality discussion is and then role model. You want to demonstrate what it looks like, what it feels like, what it sounds like, and really get students engaged. Perhaps create a chart, and throughout the day you can assess quality, recognizing quality, good quality interaction and good quality communication between students. And if you have a reward system, you may even want to reward. And understand, some students aren't going to be comfortable with communication, verbal communication. So sometimes it's recognizing nonverbal communication or even improvements in communication could help. And then you want to provide feedback positively as a group, and then individual feedback when something occurs that maybe could be an area of opportunity for improvement. Then you want to make sure you do that, individually. Cooperation is the second C, and it's defined as how should students work together towards a common goal. There are numerous ways to do this, fun ways to get students to interact, whether it be team building activities, group projects, but similar to the previous communication, you need to demonstrate what it looks, what it feels, and what it sounds like, and give constant reminders. And you want to reflect after each opportunity, what went well and what could be improved on. In the beginning, that's something that as a teacher you can lead, but as you get more experience and the students get more comfortable, they can start to own some of these initiatives. Collaboration is the third C. How can the class work together to make sure everyone succeeds? Once you reach collaboration, you want to make sure you maintain this level, because ideally that would be the classroom that would have positive interactions and students would be seeing each other as peers and in it together when it comes to learning. So those that may be disruptive in class, students can hold each other accountable, and then also rely on each other to give each other feedback if they don't understand something. And you want to ask your students to give feedback on homework. That's another thing you can say if you assign homework the night before. Asking students to give feedback on how they did or what they needed help with can also promote that peer-to-peer interaction. And then you have community. In order to build community, you must be intentional with every action. Make students feel safe and supported. Identify students by names and have them do the same. First and last names are important. You may be in the honor roll ceremonies or public and ceremonies with parents and children and outsiders. You want to make sure that you pronounce the name, and if you're unsure, then ask students how to pronounce the name appropriately. You want to start out simple. If this is your first time, you want to participate in the discussion, especially the first couple of weeks that you are initiating these morning meetings. And it may be even a wise idea to create traditions, a handshake that's unique to your class, funny questions, unusual decor. Some classes adopt a class pet, and it's just a doll, and they do creative things with the doll. So it's really up to you, but you want to do something unique. And if you have two different classes, then you want to make sure you do one for each, so it makes them stand out and builds community. And make sure students know you like them. It seems obvious, but sometimes with our nonverbals or things we say or things we don't say or pay attention to, students may get the wrong impression. So you want to make sure your students know you like them, greet them at the door every day with a smile. But there is a secret fifth C, because as we know in the classroom, sometimes the ideal just does not come to fruition. And that fifth C is conflict. And there may be conflict between you and the students, conflict between the students themselves. So you want to make sure when conflict arises that you reinforce safety, because students want that safe environment. Understand that they may have been let down before, whether consciously or unconsciously, by adults. And you want to remind them that you're not going to be that person that does that. You may need to go back to square one and reestablish trust through intentional activities. Go back to your expectations board. And some students you can say them verbally, but for students that are not verbal, then you're going to have to write them on a board and draw students' attention to the board or the sheet of paper that you have these expectations, and constantly review them. And do not let them off the hook. You don't want to be overly aggressive or overly pushy. You want to respect student boundaries, but students just may be making excuses for not participating, or just need that little push, even if it's one more step closer to being involved. Try and challenge them when appropriate and in a safe environment. And continuing on with this morning meeting resistance, look for meanings behind the statements. If a student says that they do not like something, maybe they're just uncomfortable. If they say they're bored, maybe they're not just feeling safe. Maybe you're talking about a topic. I recently talked with a teacher in my classroom who was talking about Thanksgiving, and one of the activities was, talk about what family traditions took place in the family, and all the students were going to share. And I advised her, some students may not have positive Thanksgiving memories or Thanksgiving traditions, so to also reword it in a positive setting, or make it more generic, where students can talk about maybe when they have families, what traditions would they like to see, or would they like to see continued. So definitely have to be very sensitive around holidays, and especially around the Christmas, the holiday season, Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah. Be very careful about what you say to students. So middle school students, as we've talked about, they have a more desire to be independent by their age, and nowadays, as students are getting younger and younger, as they're getting older, this will probably be applicable to kindergarten. But students have adolescent issues, starting to realize about citizenship and their role in society, recognizing diversity, recognizing that community service is something that some of them will be more into than others. So this is stuff and concepts that you can incorporate into your morning meetings for this population. but you always want to make it consistent and fun. So if this is your first morning meeting, you want to try the concept. It is never too late to start, so I encourage you to do so. And here are a few tips for you to get started in your first morning meeting. Names, very important. Even if students have gone from class to class, they still might not know everybody's name. And if you do get the feel that students know each other's names, then you can talk about middle names, last names, or a fun fact about them or where they grew up, in addition to saying the name. So feel free to tweak that as the class dictates. News from a break. If you're going on a break or it was a weekend or anything happened the night before, you may want to share news. Any current interests. For example, if one of your students talks about, especially one of your shy students talks about not having, liking Transformers, and you notice that they don't participate, then you may want to have the question focus on, hey, tell me about your favorite Transformer, and this can get that student to engage. You may want to provide information about yourself, and then of course review expectations for the class, especially if in a previous class some of the rules were not adhered to or expectations were not adhered to as clearly as you would like. So these are the components to have your first morning meeting. And we recommend that you do that, follow the same structure, at least for a couple of weeks to give, let students know the structure and get comfortable with it and get familiar with it. We talked about greeting students at the door with a smile, and that incorporates into the 60-second strategy. The 60-second strategy is starting off each lesson, each hour with 1 minute of positive reinforcement and praise and positive expectations. Use envisioning language. In the video, it talked about how just refraining from negative language is challenging because that's maybe our natural instinct. You know, don't do this, don't do that. Why are you doing this? Definitely use envisioning language. Telling students, I see you after the end of this lesson. I know you're going to understand what the concept is. I see that even though you're not good with art, I know you think you're not good with art. All of us have creativity, and I know you can put something together that will make something of interest to you. So using envisioning language. One strategy, NASA, if you go to the NASA website, they have an astronomy picture of the day, and you can just post that picture up every day and ask, what do you notice or what do you wonder? Once again, for our more shy students or students on the spectrum, this what do you wonder, this creativity, this outlet could get them more engaged. So if you were thinking about a weekly schedule for your first morning meeting run, broke it down into 5 weeks, something you could easily implement. Week 1, just getting to know the class, everyone getting to know each other, and then practicing active listening. Remember how everything looks, feels, and sounds. Week 2, delving into empathy and respect, starting out with more basic questions before getting deeper. Week 3, keep calm and be assertive, teaching students, role modeling that behavior for them and practicing it. Week 4, positive self-talk and goal setting. And then week 5, solving problems, giving issues that the class can solve together, and then identifying them through their roles and letting them recognize what role they are, what role they serve in the problem-solving activity. For advanced morning meetings, once your students you've done it for 6 weeks, or these are older students, and you can have them take more ownership, run their own meetings, and then have some stricter rules. Have them taking turns running the morning meetings, paraphrasing what each other says, and then encouraging them to use terminology from previous lessons, maybe the day before. And then if you have a reward system in your class, assigning points and rewarding people for this behavior. So in conclusion, when you have these morning meetings, you want to be clear about the goal of the morning meeting. Take the time to teach procedures and expectations and use them consistently. For students that are visual, you want to have these things written out on the board. You may want to have pictures. For students that like routine, you want to go over the expectations and go over the schedule for the day. You know, something as simple as a fire alarm can throw some students off. So you want to give them a heads up on what may disrupt the routine that they're used to. Arrange the room so that students can form a circle. Ideally, you'd have your own morning meeting space if you can create that in the classroom, so students would know that was a sacred space and a time to share, especially if you're having a challenge with a student. They may associate that just walking over to that space with the student and having a conversation may create that environment where they may feel easier to share and to speak with you. Over time, give students more control over the meeting. We just talked about that. Recognize good behavior, and if you use a reward system, you can do that, or just by acknowledging it in the group, so that way students would practice that behavior inside the classroom and on the playground. Remind students of expectations and redirect consistency and calmly before resorting to a negative consequence. This is associated with the envisioning and trying not to have negative talk throughout the classroom. And then be enthusiastic. You want to be as enthusiastic about the morning meeting as the students, so they see it as something that they're looking forward to, because you're also looking forward to it. And it really is a great start to the day, whether it be your homeroom or whether it be subject matters that you're teaching for over a period of time. Lots of times teachers say, I don't have time for the morning meetings, there's too much to do. But for classroom management, for the benefit of learning, for the environment, and for getting all students, the diverse students that you have in their classroom, to interact, to come out of their shell and to provide that learning and get ready for differentiated learning, which will be our next topic, you should definitely be able to implement these morning meetings and be enthusiastic about that. So that's all I have for this session.